There's always that one thing that every artist struggles with, and usually that would be hands, and I feel like that's a very universal thing for most artists, is hands are hard to do. But there's another thing that I feel like I really struggle with that I can never seem to get right no matter how hard I try, and that's clothing folds. There are so many different types of fabrics, and every different type of fabric sits differently on the body. Depending on how the body's moved or positioned, the fabrics will change. And on top of it all, you've also got to consider gravity. Today, I'm finally gonna face my artist fears, and I am going to sit down and I'm going to teach myself how to draw clothing folds. And you guys are coming along with me. You're also gonna be learning how to draw clothing folds. We're gonna learn together. So let's not waste any more time and let's get straight into it. I'm actually so excited for this. This is something that I have been kind of putting off for way too long. I'm not really sure where to start with this. So naturally my first instinct is to go to every artist's favorite tool, Pinterest. It's mostly, I feel like skirts aren't as bad. I definitely could get better at them, but I think it's mostly shirts and jackets and stuff that I need to work on. But things like this, where it's more focused on like the tension points and how fabric actually like moves and works, that's what I want to learn, because that'll help me to figure out how to do the clothing folds and everything. So like I could just look up jumper, for example, or sweater if you're not in the UK. Then maybe we could use like a couple of these and you know, look from a real life perspective as well, because I kind of like to do a mixture of both, where I'm doing real life studies but I'm doing artist studies as well. It's good to look at artists do it as well, because obviously I don't do realism, so it's kind of nice to see how they do it and how I can turn it into more of a cartoony look. I'm gonna try and keep, like, when I'm drawing the bodies, I'm not gonna go too crazy with it. I'm just gonna try and like keep it very basic as possible, essentially. So one of the tips that I really like, that actually something clicked for me for some reason when I heard it, but they were talking about how folds are usually where, like, you know, there'll be tension, like elbows, wrists, waist, that kind of stuff. But when there are folds that aren't around tension points, they did say that they usually consider it as like that's just gravity taking place. And I don't know why, but just hearing that, I was like, oh my god, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like I think that's why I find clothing a bit hard, because I've never considered the gravity and how the gravity is affecting the clothing. It's always just been like, okay, well, how is it sitting on their bodies? And it's like, that's only half of what I should be thinking about. So that was really helpful. I'm gonna try not to rub out too much while I do this, because I do have a bad habit of wanting things to be perfect all the time, but I'm just kind of following the reference picture. This is the reference picture, by the way. It's so hard because when you watch tutorials, I feel like they do it so easily, because obviously like they've been practicing this for like a long time, and you watch it and you're like, whoa, that looks so good, and then you do it and you're like, how is mine not looking the same? What's happening? What is this sorcery? It just doesn't look right. I don't know. It's this one. It's this clothing fold. I can't seem to understand it. Let's not spend too long on the individual sketches. Let's just try again, you know? Let's just go again. I think I might use an artist's reference point for jumper this time, and maybe that'll help. I don't know what the difference is this time, but it's feeling a little better. I feel like I've got this habit of going overboard. Like, is that enough? I don't know. I'm trying to be very loose with it, and I'm trying to keep in mind as well and not to keep things uniform. So I'm trying to keep them different, like thicknesses at the folds and different lengths and sizes and like shapes, but I'm still trying to keep them like very triangular. And I think this is looking a lot better. Okay, I'd say there's a little bit of improvement from there. So when I started these, I actually was using real life references, and I quickly realized that real life references are really hard when you don't exactly understand what you're looking at. Sometimes I find using artist references, so using references of sketches, of artworks, they can be a lot easier to follow because they've already broken down the shape. Whereas using real life references, I feel like there's just so much to it. There's so many different shapes, there's so many different ways that clothing folds fit, and I found myself doing a little too much in some areas. Whereas when I was looking at the artist references, I realized a lot of the times they were just giving the illusion of folds rather than actually doing the full fold. So for example, maybe a little bit of like ruffles on the edge of the sleeve, like a couple of bumps here and there on the edge of like the fabric, just to show that there are folds there without doing the whole thing, which made it look really busy and just not great overall. So I found the artist sketches were a lot more helpful when it came to doing this and practicing these folds. I think it was still good to use real life references though, they still help massively. I just think my brain for some reason was struggling to, I guess, figure out how I was going to put them into like a cartoony style. I think with these initial sketches I was really struggling. I was watching YouTube tutorials and trying to figure out what other people were doing, what kind of rules they followed. I was learning that triangles are a shape that come up really often in clothing folds, so I was trying to implement that. I was trying to focus more on the tension points and understanding where the tension points are, and I think the reason I struggle so much to do clothing folds in jumpers and stuff is because the tension points are the armpits, the waist, the elbows, the wrists, there's so many tension points. No wonder I struggle. There's so many things you've got to consider, and on top of it you've also got to consider gravity, and so there was a lot of new things that I was trying to figure out and work around. And yeah, these initial sketches didn't really turn out that well, but they were so valuable in actually learning what I was doing and how to do it. For example, the skirt, I think the folds were way too big for such a tight material. I found a lot of the time with the initial sketches as well that I was doing way too much. They were so busy and I wasn't really cleaning up the sketches either, so it was kind of hard to know. It was kind of hard to know what was a fold and what was just a sketch line. Sketches are usually quite rough, so I found that quite hard. Maybe I should have cleaned them up a little bit, but I was just trying to keep it as loose as possible because I just wanted to learn basically. I wasn't trying to make them look perfect, so it didn't turn out great, but I learned a lot from these, so I'm still happy overall. I found that the jumpers were the hardest. The jumpers and the jackets I really struggled with, but when it came to doing the jeans, I actually really liked how they turned out. I think looking back, some of the folds are a little too big still. I think I go a little overboard sometimes with the folds without really considering what kind of fabric it is, but overall I still really like how they came out. I think they came out way better than the sweaters and stuff, so you can see a little bit of improvement on this page. I think down towards the end of the page I was definitely learning that I was doing a little too much, and so I kind of dialed it back a little bit and was trying to focus more on like the illusion of folds rather than actually doing every individual fold, because my style is quite cartoony, and so I need to remember that. Like, I don't need to do a ton of details. I just need to kind of give the illusion of the folds being there rather than doing every individual fold. Otherwise it starts to look a bit realistic and a bit out of place on a cartoony drawing. But yeah, I overall I'm really happy with this first page. I learned a lot and I think you can see a little bit of improvements there. So yeah, I was mostly just trying to focus on the triangles and the way the folds were moving, the type materials I was working with, and I was also trying to pay attention a lot more to gravity, which is something I've never really focused on before. So those were the three things that I was, I guess, trying to wrap my head around when doing these sketches, and they helped a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like you can see some progress on this. Or maybe it's just because I did the jeans and the skirts and stuff. Even comparing this skirt to this skirt, I feel like you can definitely see a bit of improvements there. It's so crazy how fast you can improve when you're actually like trying to. I really like the pants. I'm really happy with those. I don't know why they look better than the jumpers in my opinion. I think I could definitely do a little bit more practicing with the jumpers because I still feel like they're a little bit lacking, and maybe I'm adding too much to them in some areas. Maybe I should focus on having more in certain areas like the elbows and less, you know, up here and stuff. But I mean, I guess the armpits are a tension point as well. So it's just something I want to work on. So I might do a little bit more with that. And then I think once we're feeling pretty confident, I think after that we should maybe do a full sketch, like someone in nice clothes. Maybe we can do a couple of people and draw actual characters wearing clothes to see, you know, like an actual finished sketch to see how it looks. So I think on that note, I will probably do more work with the hoodies and the jumpers and maybe some t-shirts, because I think at this moment I've pretty much got jeans down, like the pants I'm pretty happy with. Okay, so one thing I've been thinking about is, I think when doing these, and I am happy with quite a few of them, I think I'm more happy with them looking back than I am, you know, that I was when I was doing some of these. But one thing I think is still happening, the shape of them is what's kind of eluding me. So one thing that when I feel like I can't understand something, even when I'm looking at it and trying to replicate it, one thing that really helps me is tracing. Every artist's nightmare, but I always stand by the fact that tracing, as long as you're not, you know, selling it, using it as your own, claiming it as your own, anything like that, tracing is completely fine. If you just want to do it and you just want to learn and you're just trying to figure out how something works, especially with things like perspective, I find tracing often helps to understand the shapes, how things are sitting, and then it's easier to replicate when you're not tracing it. Kind of like creating muscle memory, think of it that way. So I figured what I could do is use my iPad, do some tracing digitally, and then we can move back to this once I feel like I understand exactly what I'm looking at. So these are the kind of reference photos I've gone with. I chose a couple of different materials. We've got some like lighter materials, a lot more baggy. We've got like a jumper here because I definitely want to figure out that a bit more. Those kinds of thicker materials. We've got like a thick coat here, or jacket, or whatever you want to call it. I kind of like this pose. And I got these like dungarees because I thought the jumper was sitting in a very interesting way where it's like bunched under the dungarees, which I really like. But also you've got like the tension points like down here. So I thought that would be interesting because then I can also, you know, I can also work with like a denim fabric and like a thicker fabric. I don't even think many artists are really even against tracing that much anymore. I think a lot of artists have come to realize like, hey, maybe, just maybe, tracing actually helps us because it creates muscle memory and it allows us to, you know, define shapes before we put it into practice. And it helps out quite a lot actually. So I don't think many artists even think that way anymore, but it still feels so wrong to do it, especially on camera. I'm just like, oh my god, this feels naughty. I'm definitely a big advocate for tracing, but only in the sense that, you know, you're not using it as your own artwork, you're not trying to like sell it, you're not trying to push it off as your own artwork or anything. So you know what, if tracing's gonna help you learn how to be a better artist, go for it. You know what's funny as well, oftentimes when I draw like baggy stuff, I'll usually connect the arm like right up here, but if it's baggy, you know, it's probably gonna, like, it should be joining right down here instead, which I always thought wouldn't look right, but it does look right. I've already learned something. Usually I would have like done it so the jacket was like up here and then the arm started like there or something, not down there. That looks so much better. Okay, so in terms of the baggy stuff, it was very much a lot of really soft kind of folds, I think. There's a lot of like curves in it, a couple of like pointier triangular shaped folds, but a lot of it was like really curvy ones. So interesting though, because in terms of this, I usually, like if I had done this without using stick tracing, I would have probably done it so like all of the folds had followed this way around. But obviously there's a bit of a tension point there because she's lifting her arm up, so it's also kind of curving down here, so you can see like this is like the tension point and then it's kind of like curving a little bit. So that helps a lot actually. Because I usually would have done it where it all kind of followed the same, but then obviously that's gonna look too uniform, which isn't gonna look right because it isn't right. Fabric doesn't really move like that, you know. Let me take off the reference. Oh, that looks really good. No, I do like that a lot. It'll look even better when I add things like shading and stuff to it as well, you know. That'll look really nice. Okay, I think that helped. Let's move on to this one. It's another jumper and who knows, maybe it's a different pose. It's probably like the same material, but fabric will look differently depending on how your character is positioned. So it's good to have multiple references. I really enjoyed doing this little exercise. I think it really helped me to break down what clothing folds can look like, how they can appear, kind of making them or turning them into a little bit more of a cartoony style. I wasn't doing every single clothing fold, I was just kind of doing the major ones because, like I said earlier, I have a very cartoony style, so I don't really need to go all out, but it was really helpful for understanding the way folds sit, how they can look, the different shapes, even just figuring out how they work together. It was just so helpful, and I really think this little practice I did with the tracing helped me so much. And I know tracing's such a sour point for artists. Some artists stand by it, some artists disagree. I think it's not so much the case in modern day. I think a lot of artists have come to realize that tracing isn't bad. Tracing can create muscle memory. It can help you identify shapes. I think we've kind of all agreed at this point that tracing isn't bad as long as you're not, selling it or showing it off as your own work. But if you're just using it to practice, tracing is completely fine. So after that, I decided to put what I'd learned into practice again, and I was doing a couple of t-shirts here, but the issue that I kind of learned was that I couldn't figure out what I was looking at because everything was so messy. I guess they just weren't being true to how I would do a finished piece, and I just thought, how am I supposed to know if I figured this out or not if I'm not gonna, take the time to really shade it in, add depth to it, really spend the time making the clothing folds stand out rather than just doing quick sketches. So with these, I did end up going back and I ended up cleaning them all up, cleaned up the sketches, I added depth, I shaded in some areas, and it really, really helped. They came out a lot better. I was pleasantly surprised when I went back and cleaned everything up and added in the shading. I was pleasantly surprised with how much better they looked. I was able to see that what I was putting into practice properly. So this is how I would, do folds if I was doing a proper art piece. And one thing I was struggling with was the arms of jumpers. I don't know why. As you can see with this one, I'm just struggling so much. I could not get it to look right. T-shirts seemed a lot easier. I don't know what it is with sweater materials. They're thicker, but they're also baggy, and it's just, I don't know. I think again, I was going a little too overboard with how big the folds were and how much of them there was. So I kind of tried to dial it back a little bit, which seemed to help quite a lot. So it came out a lot better, but I think I still have a little ways to go when it comes to drawing jumpers and stuff, because I don't know, it's the arms. I can't seem to figure them out. Even when I was following tutorials and even when I was looking at reference pictures, I just feel like they weren't coming out the same way as they were for other people. So I don't know, maybe we'll need to practice that a little more in the future, but for now I think I'm pretty happy with how these came out. I decided also to do some pants and to do some skirts as well because, well, I saw a reference for these really flowy pants and I just really like how they looked, and I thought, yeah, let's try this. This is kind of a thinner material, and I think I'm a little bit better at drawing thinner materials than I am with drawing thicker materials for some reason. I'm not sure why that is, but these pants, the pants that I drew, are my favorite out of the whole page. I absolutely love how they came out, and I was just having such a blast drawing them. I've never really drawn flowy pants before. I've always kind of just defaulted to jeans or leggings or something, so it's kind of inspired me. Maybe I'll do an art piece soon with a character in flowy pants, who knows. And then I decided to do a couple of skirts as well. I just thought, you know what, we're here. I am pretty confident when it comes to drawing skirts. Like I said, flowy materials seem to be my best friend. It's more of the jumpers and the jackets that I seem to struggle with. But I thought, while we're here, let's just try it. Let's just see. And yeah, I actually really like how they came out as well. One of the skirts I did with the kind of a swishing motion, I thought maybe it would be good to practice a little bit of movement with materials as well. So that's what I did. And honestly, this page I love. I don't think I've ever done clothing folds this well before. So yeah, I don't know. I'm so happy with how it all came out. So I think I can definitely see there's a bit of improvement. It's so crazy how one weekend of, practicing can really change your art and how much you can learn. I've always been so avoidant of doing this stuff, but when I do it, I really notice a difference in my artworks. So it just goes to show that even though you think it might be boring or just pointless and maybe you don't want to do it, it can really, really help. It can change up. I see a lot more studies in my future. But yeah, I'm so happy. I think they all turned out so good and I think I learned a lot. So it was definitely a very successful weekend. Okay, so there is a little bit of empty space left, but honestly, I was doing this and I was like, I think I get it. I think it's clicked. I think I kind of understand how shapes work together. Like, for example, the triangles, lining them up a little bit so that they're going the same direction, but they're also kind of, you know, like this line kind of following the way this line's going. I kind of understand that a bit more. I was working with a few skirts just to try like a more flowy material. So I tried like a skirt that's kind of like turning. But I'm really happy. I think these look really good. I think something that really helped was actually defining the lines and adding depth to it because I was able to see how it actually looked. Whereas I find with these ones, you can't really tell where the depth is because it's so messy. So I think these ones are like, these are perfect. This is exactly what I want to be able to do with like clothes and stuff. So I'm so happy. I do feel like I've learned a lot, especially about how fabric bunches up, how it turns, how it fits in the body, how gravity affects things. I think I've learned a lot and I'm so happy. I think these turned out so much better than I expected. Which one is your guys' favorite? I think my favorite is actually these baggy pants or maybe this shirt. I think these two are like so good, but honestly, looking from like where I started, these couple ones to like this and this and this, I'm just like, you can really see a difference in these. I'm so happy. And hopefully you guys learned a little bit as well. We learned together. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, then please subscribe to follow me along on my art journey, and let's glow and let's grow while also glowing together as artists. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.